Man, there's being done dirty when it comes to cruising, but then there's really being done dirty. 50 cruisers smacked in the face with a dirty deed done dirt cheap for their Easter cruise. Also, the Carolinian couple stranded in Africa, part of the group of 8 that were late for the NCL Dawn. We know now how late they were, and we've got a cruise ship that has been stopped, unallowed to leave a port because of some customs issues. Cruise news and my views. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to La Lita Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise news and views. It's for your face. For your face on April the 3rd, 2024. It's a Wednesday. Happy hump day, y'all. And I guess if there's a theme for today's show, it is cruisers done dirty. And none done more dirty than the cruisers in cruise news story number 1. Let's talk about 50 cruisers who went to the port of Singapore for an Easter cruise just last week, only to find out that there was no cruise cabin for them because the cruise ship that they were on had been overbooked. The cruise that was overbooked being offered by Resorts World Dream Cruises on the Genting Dream. And this is the second time this has happened in just a few months. I feel like overbooking of a cruise is one of the most despicable things that a cruise company does. Companies, transportation companies, they say, well, we run an algorithm because of cancellations and no-shows. And so we want to make sure that we're, at full capacity for our transportation. And so some people are going to be victimized by being overbooked. And you know what I say to that? Poppycock. I call Barbara Streisand, I call BS. Airlines do it. We're used to that, but cruise companies do it. I feel like cruise companies, that's the worst, because at least on an airline, maybe they can put you on a later flight. There's multiple options, but if you're going for a cruise on a particular cruise ship like the Genting Dream, there's no second Genting Dream that's going to leave in 3 hours. If you show up to the cruise terminal and you're a part of an overbooked situation, well, you are just hosed. Like I said, I think it's despicable. I wish cruise companies wouldn't do this. We've seen more than just Dream World Cruises do it. For their part, they feel bad. The statement said, first and foremost, we'd like to apologize for the inconvenience caused to the affected guests that were unable to sail on the March 29, 2024 sailing. In the event of an overbooking sitch or any matters affecting guest bookings, our standard operating procedure is to identify and inform the affected guests in advance prior to arriving at the terminal. For some reason, it didn't happen in this situation. Could you imagine taking all of your crap to the cruise terminal, having a confirmation, and get there and they're like, sorry, we overbooked it. Resorts World also said that it was all resolved there in the terminal. People were given, compensation, other accommodations, but I would be hot. I would be upset. We've had too many of these stories lately of people being denied at the cruise terminal. What could you imagine? That's a gut punch, right? Can you imagine the gut punch of like, it's cruise day, and then you get to the terminal and they're like, no, it's not. No, it's not. I would, that would bad. It's a dirty deed done dirt cheap. Shout out Ludacris. Cruise news story number 2. Can we talk about not necessarily a dirty deed, but let's talk about a company that went bankrupt and another company possibly benefiting from their bankruptcy. American Queen Voyages went bankrupt. They own river boats. They were doing U.S. river cruises. And then their competitor, American Cruise Line, just bought up all of their hardware at auction. They bought, 4 ships, the American Queen, the American Empress, the American Duchess. They spent $2 million, $3 million. They spent close to $6 million buying up all of the cruise ships. And so I guess one company's misfortune becomes another company's boon. They are retaining the branding, the trademarks, all that for American Queen Voyages. So it could be a potential situation where American Queen Voyages continues with their brand, but just under new ownership. Kind of like when they stick a Taco Bell and a KFC together in one restaurant. Do you ever go into the KFC Taco Bell combo and get yourself something from both? You ever get yourself like a crunchy taco and mashed potatoes with gravy? I've done it. I won't lie. I do like the combo. I like a combo. I do have a story later in the show about how the bridge collapse in Baltimore is impacting Carnival Drink Packages, of all things. More about that later. But cruise news story number 3, we have a story of rescue. The celebrity Apex has rescued migrants off the coast of Cuba. A lot of this was detailed by their cruise director on his TikTok, and there's some interesting commentary there. Basically, he says there was a ship lost at sea. They saved these folks that were lost at sea, and now they have them on the cruise ship. They're going to turn them over to authorities at a port of call. Uncertain yet which port of call, but if they don't turn them over to authorities at a port of call before they get back to Fort Lauderdale, then they will turn them over to Customs and Border Protection in Fort Lauderdale. But I don't know. I wonder what kind of questions these cruise directors get, because he made a point of saying, just so you know, we didn't lock them up. They're not locked up in the bridge, nor do they have free run of the cruise ship. It's wild. You get the craziest comments sometimes on these stories. Do you think he's responding to somebody going, oh, it must be nice to get pulled out of the ocean and be able to have a bunch of fun on a cruise ship? Or somebody's going, well, I don't feel safe with them on board. Are you locking them up in the bridge? It's funny how people being snatched from death from the sea turns into some weird conversation. But yeah, the rule of the sea. You provide assistance to those in harm's way, and cruise lines, cruise ships, cruise captains do it all the time. And we have another example on the celebrity Apex. Cruise news story number 4. Interesting story coming out of Barcelona, Spain. I got asked about this watch. This watch is the colors of the Barcelona football team. And when I thought I was going to Barcelona, I noticed that in the clearance section of my favorite watch brand, Casio G-Shock, that they had this Barcelona watch. And so now I just wear it, even though I didn't get to go to Barcelona. But I tell you who would like to be wearing it right now: 1,500 cruise passengers stuck on an MSC cruise ship, stuck in Barcelona because the ship is not being cleared to leave to continue on to its Mediterranean cruise. Authorities say that there are 69 Bolivian passengers on board that were set to get off in Barcelona that don't have the proper paperwork to disembark in a Schengen country, which Spain is one of those, part of the EU, but more specifically, they've got that Schengen designation, and sometimes you require additional paperwork. And so now the customs officials in Spain are working with MSC to figure out what they're going to do with these Bolivians. So the cruise ship came from South America. They stopped first at Spain. They're supposed to continue on to the Mediterranean. And because of these 69 passengers with not the proper paperwork, then you've got, what's the quick math on that? 1,431 passengers now in the lurch, uncertain whether or not they are going to be able to leave from Spain. And as we're talking about it here in real time, I realize I can check Ship Mapper and see where the cruise ship is, see if it's still in Spain. Yep. MSC Harmonia still docked in Barcelona. According to the itinerary, they're supposed to be in Corsica today. And so still stuck, still stranded, waiting to clear this customs issue. This certainly makes for an interesting hypothetical. What if you were just some regular passenger that flew down to South America, had all of the correct paperwork, and now your cruise is being altered because of the actions of 69 other people? Would you expect some sort of compensation from MSC, or would you just be chalking it up to, hey, that's the way it goes? Interesting stuff. And it moves us into a conversation about passengers that were impacted by the 8 people on the NCL Dawn that were stranded in Africa. We've got an update on that, a little more information released by Norwegian Cruise Line. But before we get there, let me quickly invite you to subscribe. If you like staying up to date with everything going on in cruising, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of these episodes. I think we're like less than 300 to 250,000 subscribers. Yeah. Are you part of the local fam yet? Look, all you got to do is hit that subscribe button and we're family. It's the easiest family you'll ever get. Subscribe, notification bell. It doesn't cost anything. It helps us out. Help us get to 250,000 today or tomorrow. That'd be amazing. Yeah, big thank you in advance. All right, we've been tracking along with the 8 cruise passengers that were on a private tour that arrived back to the tender port location late, and they were unable to join the NCL Dawn. And even though the NCL Dawn was still moored off in the distance, even though they made several attempts to contact the NCL Dawn through the harbor master, through NCL customer service, apparently there's a story out there of where they boarded a Coast Guard ship and tried to get to the NCL Dawn. All of those efforts, NCL said, look, you were late. You cannot reboard the ship. And it's caused a lot of hubbub. I've seen people pro NCL's stance on following the rules for leaving people behind if they're not back on time. I've had other people saying, look, there should be some leeway. It's been an interesting conversation. Well, we got new information from NCL yesterday, and we're finding out that these folks were over 1 hour late returning back to the tender spot. We know from the stories that their passports were given to an agent for the ship on shore so that they could pass those passports off to the folks. I've met one of these shore agents before. They are somebody who lives in the local area, works with the cruise line to facilitate this whole, interaction between the cruise line and the local port. What I'm gathering is that those passports probably came over in that 1 hour period when the ship decided that they would not wait any longer. And I've had a few interactions with commenters saying, well, if the Coast Guard took them out to the cruise ship, why didn't they let them on the cruise ship? And I think that's a fair question. And while it sounds simple on the surface, boat pulls up to giant cruise ship, you should just be able to throw the people on board. You got to realize, if you've been on any of these cruises, if you participated in a tender process, there's a lot of things that go on. They lower part of the ship down so that people can easily get on and off of the cruise ship. They're anchored in a certain way. The engines are running in a certain way. Crew members that may have been assigned to the onboarding and offboarding of passengers may be moved on to different assignments. I don't know all of the nuance of what it takes to complete the tender service or to prepare the ship to leave after tendering, but I can't imagine that if there was an easy way to get them from a Coast Guard boat onto the cruise ship, if it was just a snap of the fingers, easy peasy, I would think that there probably would have been consideration to that. But I also think it's a little naive to think that just because you can roll up in a boat with some people, that all of a sudden this cruise ship that's an hour after the all aboard time getting ready to leave can accommodate that. Well, Tony, didn't you less than 6 minutes ago tell us about how the Celebrity Apex saved refugees from the sea? Yes, I did. But think about that process. The ship has to stop. It has to lower its lifeboats. It has to go get those people. And when you're dealing with an operation that gets charged for being, docked longer than they're supposed to, and it is the passenger's responsibility to return to the cruise ship on time, a decision has to be made. Do you follow your rules that say if you don't make it back, we go to the next cruise port without you? Or do you make the accommodation for 8 people that could disrupt the travel for thousands? As we mentioned yesterday, the 8 cruise passengers did make it to Senegal. It seems like they have reboarded the cruise ship. They were trying to get on the cruise ship in Gambia, but the cruise ship could not dock. NCL, for their part, is paying for their travel expense from Gambia to Senegal because of their inability to dock in Gambia. But their trip from this West Coast island in Africa, Sao Tome, the 6 or 7 countries to get to Gambia, that expense is still being assigned to the people that did not get back to the cruise ship on time. And then I guess just the final update is there was a 9th passenger who was not a part of the 8, but she was off the cruise ship because of a medical emergency. It seems like she had a stroke. She was in a hospital there. The group of 8 helped the lady, and the lady was since flown to California back home. And so she's at home. Sounds like the 8 is back on the cruise ship. And interestingly, it does seem like the debate whether NCL did the right thing or these cruise passengers did the right thing still continues to be a hot topic of conversation. Does the fact that they were an hour late, does that change your opinion of it? Leave a comment below. And now let me tell you about an impact that is happening to Carnival cruisers, specifically Carnival cruisers with the drink package, because of the collapse of the Key Bridge in Baltimore. There's been some new language added to the website page for Carnival's drink package, the Cheers beverage program, alerting cruisers that will be cruising out of Norfolk, Virginia, that the drink package will not work on day one, that if you purchase the drink package and you're cruising out of Norfolk, you've got to wait until day two. This is true for Norfolk, for Texas, and New York. Because of local regulations, they can't offer you the drink package. So if you're cruising out of Baltimore, your drink package will work on day one. But now that the Legend has been relocated to Norfolk for cruises, if you have a drink package, you will be impacted. You know, of course, the collapse of the Key Bridge in Baltimore continues to loom heavy as there was loss of life there. And of course, insane impacts to shipping and cruising. And now we have recovery of that bridge, the largest crane on the eastern seaboard, trying to remove pieces of that bridge out of the water. It just, it really shows you the fragility of life, that within like a 20-second event, things continue to impact. And now some inconvenience for Carnival Legend cruisers. Drink package not going to work on day one. Not the end of the world, obviously, compared to, you know, the loss of human life, but an impact nonetheless. Let me ask you this. Is overbooking you on the cruise the dirtiest deed that could be done to a cruiser? I'm struggling to think of something more dirty. Boom, that's your cruise news. Thank you for checking out the show today. Do me a favor, massage that like button, illuminate it. If you dislike the show, hit that dislike twice. Thank you guys for checking out this episode. It's Tony for La Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye. Cruise